Hey, it's Barry Mold, still getting your small business unstuck. I'm here today with three CEOs, and we're going to talk about how the COVID-19 pandemic is having on your business. So, Todd, tell us about your business, what you do, and how it's really affected your business so far.
Oh, Barry, it's been game changing for my business. My business is in a mode of reinvention. I retired from my recruiting company, and now I've been coaching and speaking full time for
And
about
that's a
three
good
years.
thing because there's no more recruiting, right?
Oh, well,
There's
so
so
that
many
that that,
people.
that industry's now been essentially wiped out. So it'll
Exactly.
all
With
be
25
online.
million people on unemployment, there's no
Uh,
need for recruiters anymore.
So in that space, I was kind of Nostradamus. I got out early, but with the speaking space, it's so interesting. I was going to be on 6 different stages across the globe, and all those events, as you know, have been canceled. So now, how do I reinvent? How do I get my message out there to entrepreneurs that are stuck? How do I help them take the complex and make it simple and work the inside out model that I teach? And so I was telling it to my good friends Andy and Nigel, and we decided to put together this group of three CEOs to help entrepreneurs around the globe, not just here in the United States, get unstuck and get through these tough times because we're all reinventing right now.
Now, my understanding is I know that you're friends with Mike McAllowitz. He's still doing the events, even though no one's going to be there, right?
Everybody's got a unique model on how not to make money too. So
Exactly. Exactly. So, Nigel, last time we talked, you have a
Yeah.
great book that's out. Tell us what you've been up to and how you've really been affected by the pandemic.
Oh man. Well, Barry, we have a lot in common, I think, because I think we follow
No, no,
each
no.
other
You're
around the
lucky to
globe,
be
right?
Canadian.
Yeah.
I'm American, so that's where the differentiator is.
The really cool thing was I after I talked to you, I was traveling, like we're in Africa, we're all over the place, but so are you. Like we're
Uh,
following each other around on Facebook all the time, right? With your boys and my daughter. And you know what I really realized, Barry, is that we are so fortunate. Like we were so fortunate to be at that space and that time to be able to do that, because right now we may not ever be able to do that ever again with our kids. And we were just so fortunate. And I just look back at this time that people being, stuck inside, and especially entrepreneurs, we always feel isolated. But this is kind of the quiet time to actually spend with our kids and keep that family bond. So that's what I've been doing a lot of in the past year or so since I saw you last. It's been really interesting period.
It's interesting. You talk about, Nigel, about how entrepreneurs are isolated. And
Yeah.
we're even more isolated now because we're sitting home alone or maybe with our family, but we don't have our team around. We can't really see them. And that, I think, builds even more pressure. Plus, you got to show that you're not going through some of the same stress that your entire team is going through.
Yeah. It's a really tough time. I mean, it's brought us all to a different level using this Zoom and all this. I mean, I'm connected with my office. I'm a Whistler. I've been a Whistler since November. My office is in Vancouver, but I'm in contact with them every day. And I was really fortunate several years ago, as I mentioned before, that I was able to set my business up to run without me several years ago. And the only reason I was able to do that is because I was part of a really strong peer group, which was the Entrepreneurs Organization. I had a great forum group, and then I had an amazing coach that helped me, attain my goals. And I look back at the time, and I talk to my wife about it all the time. And I say that, if we didn't have this coach, like, I don't know where we would be. And I think now is the time for the entrepreneurs to have this support, because we just can't do, we can't do life alone. We just can't do life alone, and we need to be held accountable. And that's one of the main reasons that I was able to kind of set things up to run without me. And I check with my office, daily on Skype, but that's really it. So
Well,
I'm really
Andy,
fortunate.
Andy, I'm really glad that you actually got dressed up for this because
I did.
I'm not saying what I'm wearing on the bottom, but I actually changed the shirt for this on the top.
I did the same thing, Barry. I did the same thing.
But you look like you're standing, unless that's a virtual background.
No, it's that's a real background, and I am standing.
So
Yeah.
tell us about yourself and what you've been
Sure.
doing dealing with the pandemic for small business owners.
Sure. So myself, Barry, I have kind of two different areas that I focus in. One is I'm a certified scaling up coach. So I work with Vern Harnish and bringing the scaling up methodology inside of clients. And then I also am partners in a company called Tulip Media, hence the colorful jacket I have on today. With my scaling up clients, it's interesting. They, this whole coronavirus has been a real bout of bad luck for a lot of businesses. There's some businesses has been actually good luck for, depending on what industry you're in. But regardless, things are being shaken up right now, and things are changing. And whenever there's massive change, there's always opportunity. And I always talk to my clients, and we led a number of discussions virtually recently around this return on luck. Jim Collins talks about return on luck. Sometimes it's good luck, sometimes bad luck, but the companies that have consistent return on luck, it doesn't matter if it's good luck or bad luck. They're the companies that take the time to, take your look above the ground, look on the landscape, look where things are going, and figuring out where things are going with their industry, with their customers, with their business, and make strategic decisions that they will ensure that they have good positive return on what is often, for most of us, bad luck.
But Andy, what I'm seeing now is a lot of small business owners are just plain scared. So they're not even peeking their head up over the side to see what's there. They're just hunkering down. And many of them aren't even thinking about scaling up. What they're thinking about is, do I keep the people I have? Do I pay them? Do I fire them? What advice do you have for those small business owners, which are, I guess, unless you're an attorney where, business is good, whether good times or bad times, but people always hate each other, right?
Yeah.
But most small business owners, 90% of them are affected by this. What advice do you have for them?
So, in my other business with Tulip Media, where I'm partners, we do marketing, and, we're in the marketing industry, marketing communications, both digitally and in print, for client partners across North America. And at first, like that first couple of weeks, we were like everyone else. We went into we were in defensive mode. We played defense those first couple of weeks, and we had a number of clients that, gave notice and left, and because everybody else was running scared as well. And the first 2 weeks, it was playing defense. Then I think most of us were starting, at least, if you're progressive, what I really recommend, start, getting that foundation under you. You know where you are now, and you need to start to go on offense a bit. And that's where I think the real opportunities are. So my advice to people is, initially you got to go on defense. You got to make sure you have cash for the next month or two or whatever. You need to make those quick decisions, but you need to start going on offense. Otherwise you're going to play not to lose, as opposed to playing to win. And I heard somebody say it this morning, is that I was on a webinar and somebody said, March was like the longest year ever. And it's because the reason why, in the month of March, the first week of April, we made more tough decisions as CEOs than we normally do in a full year. And that's reality. That's real. And when you think about the massive decisions we made, we just came across and made the decisions one after the other. And it's very tiring. So now now assuming your business is still afloat and you've got a foundation, you got a bit of a plan, you got to go on offense. You got to go on offense and think strategically. Take the moment, take your leadership team, take your management team, take some outside advisors, a coach, whatever, and get out of your office. Think strategically where, Wayne Gretzky said, I don't go where the puck is, I go where the puck's going. Where is the puck going in your industry, and how can you go there and lead that change? That's my advice.
I think that makes a lot of sense. So Todd, a lot of businesses are either shut down or drastically reduced, but I've been impressed about how some of them are still staying in touch with their customers. I know, just like Nigel, I travel a lot around the world, and things that I'm seeing are, when you're ready to travel again, basically think of us. That's an important part to stay in touch with your community, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And I think with that messaging, the underlying theme as I see it is, it's not expectation of that you'll be traveling by May, but it's the intention of when you do, we will be there for you. And, we talk about reinventing our businesses. And, for me, my business was designed to speak from stage, to get in front of my ideal audience, to get coaching clients. And most of my coaching was one-on-one in person with the CEO. Now it's virtual. My intention is to work 7 days a week versus Monday through Friday. My work-life integration, not work-life balance, is really become solidified, so that when people are in need of what, coaches like I can do or coaches like Andy can do, we're there for them. But by no means can we expect anything to be different. And so we have to market with all the stuff we do is, we're here when you need us. If you're in a survival, not a thrive mode, we're still here to listen. A lot of the clients that I work with right now, I'm working for them with, deferring billing, deferring payment because they can't afford it right now. And that's okay. Because I think the long-term play for most of us is where will these companies be in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years from now? And how can we be there for them? And I love the vendors that I work with who are extending the same courtesy to me as a small business owner. And again, I think it's so key for people to recognize right now that cash is king. Messaging to employees is by far so important. I think Andy does some great things around that in regards to how to message to employees. And at the end of the day, we're all going to be through this. Nigel, myself, Barry, everybody's been through recessions, through 9/11. We are going to live to fight another day, but the world is going to be different. And when it's different, we're going to be here for you.
Yeah, Todd, I think that's a really good point. And Nigel, to build on that, I think most entrepreneurs have to understand we're going to work harder for the same or less kind of money. That's what you do during recession, or perhaps this is a depression if you're unlucky to be in the United States, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I just reflecting back, this is a really tough time right now. And I'm 58, you're 60, and I've been through similar things, not quite like this, but similar things, 2008, et cetera. And just the reinvention of ourselves. And, I lived for years, 20 years, I call it the doorknob effect. I would show up to my office and I would put my hand out and I would, before I touched the doorknob, I would take a deep breath because I was going to step inside and I didn't know what was going to be going on, right? Entrepreneurs live like this. We have no idea. So this is different, but it's not that different. We do survive and we do rebuild. And my business is what I did is I've reconfigured it so many times. And one of the times we were doing everything for everybody. We were selling everything to everybody, high volume, low margin. But in 2008, we really had to focus. So what we did is we came up with some new patented designs and high margin, low volume. And we were able to nail that, but we were very, very niche. We went from doing everything for everybody to very niche. And that's worked out extremely well. So it's a reinvention. And that doorknob effect thing it's a continual thing for all of us entrepreneurs. I mean, nothing's going to change. It's the way we live. And this is just another challenge.
Listen, this hasn't happened since 1918, the Spanish flu. And none of us, except for maybe Todd, were alive at that point, right, Todd? So, we've never really seen 25 million people in America apply for unemployment in 4 weeks, but this is not unlike some of the other things we've been through. But I guess, Andy, the biggest question that most entrepreneurs have, and if you could have an answer to this question, it would be great. When is this all going to end?
Well, let me see. I just had
to check the calendar. Question,
it's
Andy.
already scheduled. Already got it scheduled in my calendar.
It was supposed to be Easter, but it didn't happen, according to the president.
Yeah. I think the best thing that, so a couple of quick points on that. Nobody knows when it's going to end, obviously. But, as entrepreneurs, I always tell people, I said, hey, if you're an entrepreneur, you have the most secure job in the world because by definition, you will put one foot in front of the next and you'll figure it out.
Right.
So, you got to have confidence that you'll get through this. But on the other side, you hope for the best, but always plan for the worst. So when I got our team together a couple of weeks ago, one thing I posed them, I said, okay, here's where we're at. Just laid everything out very, very factually, just didn't sugarcoat anything. This is where things are at. Now, what I want to ask you is how do we reinvent ourselves? How do we change? How do we adapt with the premise that what if it doesn't go back to normal? Or what if it's 12 months? We don't know. So if things don't go back to normal, that's what you got to plan for. That's your contingency plan. That's what you have to, build your short-term business plan. By the way, business plans are a waste of time for the most part. The way I look at it is every quarter, you can plan out a quarter in advance, usually. But you can't plan out further than that. And with this whole crisis, with this whole pandemic, it's even shorter than that. So you can plan for maybe 2 weeks at a time. But what if things don't go back to normal? What is your business going to look like in 4 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks time? When, what if it doesn't go back to normal exactly like it was? Or what if it takes a lot longer? And you got to plan for that. Right. And as an entrepreneur, you'll figure it out.
You know, a lot of restaurants are saying, listen, I don't think we're ever going to have crowded restaurants this next year until there's a vaccine. But do we need to put up plexiglass in between the booths, right? Do we need to take temperatures as people, come in? So it is going to change. Now, Todd, being the only American on the panel, I got to ask you the Paycheck Protection Plan question. Of course, today, no surprise to me, now, this has all happened when you get bangs in between a small business owner and their money. What could happen? What bad could happen, right? The SBA website crashed. We're seeing publicly traded companies, even companies like the Lakers, the Los Angeles Lakers, getting PPP loan. What is going on here, and what is a better way, do you think, we can get aid to small business owners in the U.S.?
Well, I think the Shake Shacks and the Ruth Chris who got money and gave it back first did a very smart PR move. When you take a look at their balance sheets, they were just fine. If the Bus family can't manage the Lakers any better, maybe they should just sell them to Magic Johnson, who seems to be a really successful entrepreneur on his own right. I think the strategy of pushing a bunch of cash into the marketplace was basically to stave off essentially a revolt of the general populace. The average American had less than $600 in savings going into this. Average businesses don't have the 6 to 12 to 2 years worth of cash reserves they need to continue to go on. So your small restaurants, your landscaping companies, your solopreneurs were in bad shape. So the government did have to go immediately into crisis mode. What they did, I argue, was give more of a sprint answer to a marathon problem. They said, okay, this is what we're gonna do right now. It didn't work. The systems weren't in place. They announced so much. Then we have our president who chooses to have his daily talk show to compete against Ellen and the other talking heads out there. And his message.
All the states are contestants, right?
Well, it's really, we are contestants and we're all vying for his favor, and whatever again, it's very unclear. The messaging is unclear. And what happens with employees, what happens with entrepreneurs, anybody in the general population, is when the messaging is unclear, we start telling ourselves stories, and we don't tell ourselves stories like the sun is going to come up tomorrow. All like Orphan Annie. We're like, oh crap, we're in big trouble. We're all going to be closed tomorrow. So I think a lot of it was designed to stave that off. It's the execution. You've got to work with the institutions. I've got a friend of mine who started a bank, and he's like, we have no idea. We've not getting the regulations. We haven't got a chance to review the regulations. So the day we get the regulations are not the day we're going to give you the money, contrary to what you're hearing. So that once you look below the surface of the PR campaign, the mechanisms weren't there. And there's going to come a time where there's going to be the inability to continue to throw money at a problem without having something to secure against that cash.
Now, Nigel and Andy, my understanding is that Canada does this differently, right? They're not making the small business owners into employment agencies. They're actually paying a certain percentage of people's compensation. I don't know which one you want to take this.
Andy, you want to go?
Sure. Yeah, the way Canada is doing it is, because trying to stave off so many people going on unemployment, they are actually giving wage subsidies through the businesses. So, I mean, to me, it's smart, as one guy put it. Instead of dealing with 30 million individuals, why don't you deal with the 300,000 businesses and funnel the money through them? So there is wage subsidies for those businesses that have been hit, but there's all kinds of restrictions. We have a lot of similar problems in the way that, these wage subsidies were announced, 3 weeks ago, I'm going to say, and 4 weeks ago, and they were supposed to be ready the next week, then the next week, then the next week. And here we are today, supposedly you're supposed to be able to apply. But, I could just imagine systems crashing and everything else. It's government panicking, in my view, in a lot of cases. They're trying to do the right thing, but to roll out a system or a process, it's nearly an impossible job. And what worries me is the amount that they're throwing at it. It's just, I don't know nobody can really predict what that's going to mean for an economy in the long term. Like the U.S. going $2 trillion in debt again.
Well, more. I mean, the thing is up to $3 trillion, but they've thrown something like $600 million at the small business owners. But people say, people are saying that it's going to take between $1 trillion and $1.5 trillion. So I think they got to do something. We just don't have the mechanism in place. The last question I wanted to ask you guys, and let's start with Nigel. What's really your best advice for a small business owner right now who's listening to you, who's kind of
I mean, for me right now, Barry, I think, we look back at this whole thing and it's, what's this virus really trying to teach us? And what is useful? Like, what can we bring out of this that is useful as opposed to all the negative stuff? I mean, and for me, it's, that quiet time is the time, the bonding with my family that, I've been traveling all over the world for years. And now I have this time to spend and really, bond with my family. So, I mean, for me, that's kind of my key thing. You guys?
My wife says, I didn't marry you for 7 days a week. I'm not used to being home all the time. So, Todd, what has been one piece of advice that you'd like to leave small business owners?
Well, I think it's important to recognize that whenever we get back to the new normal, it's not going to be the old normal. Mm-hmm. So saluting the flag of the past of, December and January in hopes that it will carry forward to whenever this ends is not a solid decision. It's not a solid strategy. A better strategy is, again, like Andy was talking about with his company, assume that the world does not return to the way it was. What can our new normal look like? Where are the hidden opportunities within the tragedy? And really get out of that reactive reptilian brain mindset of fight or flight, slow down, take a breath, and try and figure out creatively where you can do that. So if you don't have a coach or a tribe to go to, find one. An entrepreneur alone is an entrepreneur at risk. How can you reach into your tribe? Have these kind of conversations. Reach out to your communities, whether it's an EO, YPO, a Vistage, whatever. Have those conversations. Hear what other smart people are doing to get your brain firing creativity. Because again, at the end of the day, there's going to be businesses going on whenever this takes place. How can you be part of that group that survives so that you can live to fight another day? But it's going to look differently, and don't pretend it's not.
Yeah.
And Andy, one thing I've already learned from you is someday I'm going to have to get dressed again.
You are, yeah. Unfortunately.
So what advice do you have for small business owners?
It's kind of similar to what I touched on before is you've got to keep getting up every day and keep moving forward. As an entrepreneur, you will figure it out. You've got to put one foot in the front of the other. And sometimes now, especially now, you're going to be challenged to make the big, bold decisions that maybe you could have put off before, you could have afforded to put off. You've got to take action. Todd mentioned the reptilian brain and the fight, flight, or freeze. Now is not a time to freeze. Now is not a time to freeze, and so many people are freezing because if you freeze, I worry about you and worry that you're not going to make it through. I worry about the number of bankruptcies that are going to come out of this. I think that we're going to feel for a long time to come, but you got to keep putting one foot in front of the other, get up in the morning, keep moving forward. And as an entrepreneur, you will figure it out.
Well, listen, I appreciate all of you guys joining us. Just one piece of advice: you all need to go wash your hands twice. Yeah. Right? Sing happy birthday. And, if you need one of these little puppies that I bought for $100, you just let me know.
Purell bottle for $100. That's great.
Yeah, you got it, Barry. That's a deal.
Take care, guys.
Barry,
thanks, Barry.